Hello, I'm Judge James Brown of the Franklin County Domestic Relations Court, and I'm also here today representing the Family Protection Center here within our court. Joining me today is...
I'm Mike Crispin. I'm the Whitehall Police Chief. I'm also the President of the Central Ohio Chiefs Association.
We're speaking to you today to introduce a new program. That program is being offered by the Franklin County Family Protection Center, and it is called Hope Cards. The Hope Cards is something I learned about at a judicial conference from a fellow judge in the state of Virginia. And what it is a very simple step to provide domestic violence victims with additional protections and also to reduce the burden on officers when they are confronted with the always dangerous and difficult task of dealing with domestic violence. So the question is, what is a Hope Card? A Hope Card is a credit card size document. This is something that a petitioner, a victim, can carry with them in their wallet, in their purse, in their pocket, whenever and wherever they may need it. It is much more practical than walking around with a 6-page document. All too often, these are left in somebody's glove box, are left on somebody's kitchen table, and they're not readily available for the officer to see when they step into an ugly situation. What this is a means to verify the existence of a protection order. But it's equally important to understand this is not the protection order itself. This is means to verify it. The order is something that is still the paper document or something that can be verified by the officers. And I'll let the chief describe it a little more what the cards are all about.
Well, Judge, thank you for that. And I thank you for your forward thinking on this project also, because you're exactly right. Officers, they tend to need information quickly and rapidly on scene, and having someone have to fumble in their glove box or a purse or somewhere to find this many documents is sometimes difficult. And so what I think is interesting is for officers getting something that quickly, it has the case number on it, it has the judge's name on it, the issue date, the expiration date is on it, the photos on it, it also has a phone number, and it also has some information about the respondent themselves, whether tattoos, whether they're a threat to officers, just things that we need to know on scene as a police officer. Now, one of the things I just mentioned was there's a phone number on here. Sometimes officers have dispatchers calling and trying to figure out who is this an order that's still legitimate? Is it one I need to arrest under? As you said, not the card itself. They can't arrest on the card itself, but there's an actual number that the court expects us to call, and that number will then give us our answer. Is that correct?
Correct. There's one additional piece of information on the card that I think is increasingly important, and that is this notification that firearms were involved in the domestic violence, because we're all too aware of how firearms are coming into play today.
Excellent. You know, one of the things I was wondering when I read this, Judge, is some of our school resource officers or school officials, they have children that are in there who also are part of this protection. And I was just sort of wondering if this card will also be expanded so that the children can carry this to school with them.
Absolutely. That's a perfect question and a perfect idea, because sometimes the children are protected parties, and therefore they're entitled to that card, so to speak, and they're entitled to that protection. So I think it would be a wonderful thing for a child to carry. I think it's a wonderful thing to put the school on notice to help the administration, because I know from my years as a private practitioner and now on the bench, the schools are often caught in the middle when it comes to domestic disputes and occasionally domestic violence.
Well, I know you put a lot of work into this. I got to assume that there's some good success stories that you have.
Yeah, what I think is important for your officers and everyone to understand, this is just one additional step that we're trying to provide to protect the victims. One thing that can make it easier for them to access protection from law enforcement or anyone else. So this is one step. The likelihood of an officer coming across this is probably not that great, but all it takes is one time. And I'd like to close with an anecdote I learned, and this was out of the state of Virginia, and Judge Chitwood told me about this. There was a situation where a woman was traveling down the highway, had a companion in the car with her. Officer pulled her over for some driving traffic violation, and when the officer approached the car, as is standard, he asked for license and registration. The woman reached into her purse, pulled out her driver's license, and behind her driver's license was her Hope card. The officer took that back to the cruiser, ran a check for the traffic violation, as is standard, and then also saw the Hope card. He contacted the information, he obtained verification, he learned that the individual in the vehicle was the respondent and that the woman was being taken against her will. One situation that this card may have saved a life, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
One time's enough. One time's
Indeed.
enough for sure to
Indeed.
make this worth doing. Judge, I thank you for doing this. I think this type of forward thinking by the court, also including law enforcement in your thought process, how it could be more convenient to us, not just to the protectees, but to the officers as well. I thank you very much for even doing that. This is very important.
I appreciate that, and for anyone that may want additional information or has follow-up questions, they can contact the Family Protection Center at 614-525-3659. I want to thank you for your time and listening. Hopefully this is a program that will help our citizens.